Hello, good morning to all. Am I audible? Yes, okay. I think my screen is also visible to you. Okay, so already we have started with the design of a levers. Okay, then we have gone through the various types of levers. Then various things about levers. Okay, just we will revise the things. And today's topic for discussion is the how to design a lever. Okay, so first we will go through the whatever we have seen in last lecture. Just we will revise the things and then we will go for the design of the levers. Okay, so levers means it is a rigid rod which is capable of rotating about the fixed point, and that fixed point is called as a fulcrum. Okay, and it is used to lift the heavy loads by the application of less or very less efforts. Okay, and this is mechanical devices mostly operated by the hand or foot. Okay, here is the diagram. The fulcrum, effort, and the load. These three things are the most important. Here is the application or the example for the lever. Already we have seen all these things. The lever which consists of three main parts, that is fulcrum, load arm, and effort arm. Right. So fulcrum means it is fixed point, and that load arm is nothing but the L1 and the L2, and the effort arm is nothing but L1, where P indicates effort and F indicates load. Okay. So the perpendicular distance from the fulcrum to that effort is effort arm, and the perpendicular distance from the fulcrum to the load is the load arm. That is L1 and L2 are the effort arm and the load arm. Okay. Then we have seen that mechanical advantage and the leverage. What is mechanical advantage? F upon P ratio is called as mechanical advantage. Okay, and the ratio of effort arm to the load arm, that is L1 upon L2, is called as leverage. Okay, so once you will take the moment at a fulcrum, means at the center. Okay, you will get this equation F into L2, which is equal to P into L1. Okay, once you will rearrange the terms, F upon P is equal to L1 upon L2. That is mechanical advantage and leverage. Okay, this question may be asked in the same exam. It is very most important. What is mechanical advantage and leverage? Okay, so you have to explain all these things with diagrams. Okay, the next part we have seen the types of lever, that is first order lever or first class lever. Okay, what is first class lever? When the fulcrum is in between the effort and the load, such type of a lever is called as first class lever. In diagram you can see fulcrum is at the center, the effort is at the right hand side, and load is at the left hand side. So the fulcrum is in between effort and the load. Such type of a lever are called as first class lever. Here are the some examples, that scissor and the plier are the example of a first class lever. Then in case of first class lever, when your L1 is less than L2, then your mechanical advantage will be less than 1. When your L1 is equal to L2, your mechanical advantage is equal to 1. And when L1 is greater than L2, then your mechanical advantage will be greater than 1. Okay. The second class lever, when your load is in between fulcrum and the effort, is called as second class lever. Here is the wheelbarrow is the best example, or the bottle opener is the one another example for the second class lever. Okay, so in case of a second class lever, your effort arm, that is L1 length, is always greater than L2. Okay, so the mechanical advantage is always more than 1. Okay, in third class lever is what? Your effort is in between the fulcrum and the lobe, that is P is in between the fulcrum and the lobe. Okay, and here in this case your L2 is always greater than L1. The best example is your when you are lifting the load. Okay, and here is, that is tongs, is one another example for the third class lever. Then bell crank lever. What is bell crank lever? Bell crank lever, when your effort arm and the load arm is 90 degree to each other, then such type of a lever are known as a bell crank lever. Okay, then angular lever means what? When the angle between load arm and the effort arm is other than 180 degree, then such lever is called as a angular lever. Sorry. Then one arm lever is what? The lever which has only one arm. Okay, and that arm is called as a effort arm. Okay, and that examples are handbrake in a car, lever in a lathe, kickstart in a two wheeler. Okay, so all these things we have already seen. So now today's our discussion for the topic is design of a levers. Okay, how to design that levers. Okay, so the first step in a design of a lever is to find out the forces. Okay, or the force analysis. Now, what is force analysis? In any applications, the load or the force F. Okay, upon already we have already seen we have considered this F as a load. It you can consider it as a load or the force. Okay, and it is indicated by the F. Okay, so the load or the force F to be exerted by the lever is given. Okay, and the effort which is required to produce that force is calculated by taking moment about the fulcrum. Okay, that already we have seen. Once you will take the moment at the fulcrum, what you will get? F into L2 is equal to P into L1. That is F upon P is equal to L1 upon L2, but here they have rearranged in terms of effort. That P is equal to F into L2 divided by L1. Means here you can find out effort. Okay, that effort which is required to produce the force, which is calculated by taking the moment at the fulcrum. You will get this equation. That equation we have already seen. Okay, now the free body diagram of a forces acting on the first type of a lever is shown in a figure. Okay, here in this figure, this is the first order type of a lever. Okay, why it is first type of order of lever? Because fulcrum is in between the effort and the load. That's why it is a first type of a lever. Okay, and R is what? It is the reaction at the fulcrum pin. Here is what you can see. R means it is the reaction at the fulcrum pin. Okay, since the sum of the vertical forces which is acting on the lever must be equal to 0, that R, that is reaction at the fulcrum which is acting in vertical direction, where the effort and load which are acting in a downward direction. Okay, so since the sum of the all vertical forces, vertical and parallel forces on the lever must be equal to 0, just I will consider this R as a positive direction in upward direction, and the F and P which are going downward direction, so I will consider it as in negative sign. Okay, so what will be the equation? Your R minus F minus P. Okay, means R is what will happen, whereas F and P will go to the right hand side, then you will get R is equal to F plus P, right? Because of what? It's the summation of all the vertical forces. Okay, and considering the sign convention for upward direction and downward direction. So here you can calculate the R, that is reaction at the fulcrum P. Okay, at the center there is a fulcrum P. Okay, this is the first order lever. So R is equal to F plus P. Okay, now the free body diagram of a forces which are acting on the second type of a lever as shown in figure. Just I will show you the figure. This is a second type of a lever. Why it is? Because the fulcrum, sorry, the load is in between the load and the effort, right? In first class order lever, the fulcrum is in between the load and the effort. But in case of a second lever, second order lever, your load is in between the fulcrum and the effort. Okay, so in this case the load and the effort act in opposite direction. In second order lever, the load and the effort, they are acting in upward direction or in opposite direction. Okay, so considering the equilibrium of forces in a vertical direction, what I will get? Now F is equal to, because F is in vertical direction, sorry, in upward direction, and this R and P is in downward direction. So F is equal to what? R plus P. Okay, that is R is equal to. So here you can find out in case of second order lever, R is equal to that reaction at fulcrum P is equal to F minus P. Okay, so in a problem statement, they will ask you, they will give you any, they will ask you about first order lever or second order lever, but you should know how to find out the reaction at the fulcrum. If it is a first order lever, then reaction at fulcrum P is equal to F plus P. But in case of second order lever, the reaction at fulcrum P is equal to F minus P. Okay, are you getting this? Okay, now the next. Okay, in earlier two cases, now means earlier the first order and second order case, the forces which are assumed to be parallel, okay, right? These are the parallel because they both are that full effort and all this reaction which are acting in a vertical direction. But that we have assumed to be a parallel. But sometimes what happens, the forces F, okay, and P, that is load and effort, act along the lines that are inclined to one another as shown in following figure. Just see the figure. Here it is. Okay. Now this load and the effort, they are in inclined direction. Earlier two cases was they are in a parallel and in a vertical direction. Okay, parallel and they were parallel and vertical. But here some cases the load and effort will be in inclined position. Okay, to the one another. Okay, in such cases, what will be happen that L1 is what? It is the perpendicular distance from the fulcrum. Here you can see the perpendicular distance to that effort, which is considered as a L1. That L1 is nothing but the effort arm, okay, which is to the line of the action of the force to the P. Okay, and similarly L2 is what? It is the perpendicular distance from the fulcrum to the line of action of the force, that is L2. Okay, so in such case of an inclined case, you need to consider this L1 and this one as L2. That is the perpendicular distance from the reaction R, okay, to the F, line of action of a force. Okay, perpendicular distance from the line of action of a force to the effort from the fulcrum. Okay, so out of three, there may be problem based on out of three. तरी एका टाइप वरती पेशंट विचारला जाणार. It may be inclined or it may be parallel or vertical. Okay, but you should know all the things, all the possibilities. Okay, now in such case, how to find out R? Okay, now the following rules from the statics should be applied to the reaction R at the fulcrum. Okay, now in this such type of a case, how to find out the reaction at the fulcrum P? So the magnitude of the reaction R, okay, the magnitude of the reaction R is equal to the resultant of the load F and the effort P. Okay, so the resultant magnitude of the reaction R is equal to the resultant of F and P. Now how it is according to the, it is determined by the parallelogram law of the forces. Here the parallelogram law of the forces is used. According to that law, the magnitude of the reaction at R is equal to the resultant of the load F and the P. Okay, so here is the parallelogram law is used to find out the reaction at the fulcrum. Okay, then the line of action of the reaction R, the line of action of the reaction R, which is passes through the intersection of P and F, right? The line of action of the reaction R passes through the F and P. Here you can see it is passes through the line of action F and P. That is the point O. Okay, here is the point O in a figure. That is which is also through the fulcrum. Okay, here is point O, which is passing through load F, effort P, and the reaction R. Okay, there. Okay, so the following figure which illustrates a bell crank lever. Okay, that figure here is the bell crank lever, right? With the arms that are inclined at an angle theta. Okay, the arms, that is load arm and effort arm, they are having angle theta in between it with one another. Okay, so the load F and the effort P, which is acting at a right angles to the respective arm. Okay, that F and P are acting right angles to the arm. So the reaction R at the fulcrum is given by, how to find out? R is equal to, according to the parallelogram law, R is equal to square root of F square plus P square minus 2 into F into P into cos theta. Okay, so in such type of cases, you have to use this formula according to the parallelogram law. In earlier cases, in first order, second order, directly we can find out the reaction and forces, right? But here you need to apply the parallelogram law, which is R is equal to square root of F square plus P square minus 2 into Fp into cos theta, right? Then when the arms of the bell crank lever at the right angles to one another, okay, when that arms of the bell crank lever when right angles to each other, then the theta is how much? The theta is equal to 90 degree. And what is cos theta? Cos 90 is 0. Okay, so I will put over here in this equation what I will get. So cos theta is 0 means this term will, whole term will get cancelled. That's 2fp into cos theta. Cos 90, that is cos 90 is 0. So this overall term will get cancelled. So what will be the remaining? R is equal to square root of X square plus P square. Okay. So in case of an inclined type of forces acting on that particular lever, bell crank lever, then you can find out R by means of this formula. R is equal to F square plus P square. For first order lever, where R is equal to F plus P. In second order lever, R is equal to F minus P. But in case of a bell crank lever with the angle, that R is equal to square root of F square plus P square. Okay, all of you, are you getting this? How to find out reaction at fulcrum P? Yes, please. Yes, only one. What about remaining students? Yes, are you get how to find out reaction at fulcrum pin in first order, second order, or in a case of a inclined forces? Okay, so these are the formulas. Okay, F R is equal to F plus P, R is equal to F minus P, and R is equal to square root of F square plus P. Yes, fine, fine. You are getting it, so it's very good. Okay, now we will go ahead now. Okay, now the step number two. Now design of a lever arm. Now here is the you need to earlier we have find out the reactions at the fulcrum pin. Now how to design the lever arm. Okay, so when the forces which are acting on the lever are determined, okay, forces, we will find out F, we will find out P, we will find out R. Okay, that reaction forces, effort force, that is effort and load. Okay, that when the forces we will first determine. The next step in a lever design is to find out the dimensions of the cross section of the lever. That is the most important step, to find out the cross section dimensions of the cross sections of the lever. Okay, the cross section of the lever is subjected to the bending moment. Okay, so the cross section is under bending moment because the vertical forces which are acting. Okay, and in case of a two arm lever, as shown in figure, two arm lever. Okay, in case of a two arm lever, means here it is one, another arm will be there. The bending moment is zero at the point of application of P or F. Okay, so the bending moment at F and the bending moment at P is what? Zero. Okay, and the maximum at the boss of the lever. Okay, and at the maximum means at the here you can see at the fulcrum pin at the here means fulcrum, the surrounding part of the fulcrum pin is nothing but the boss. Okay, so here it will be the maximum, the bending moment will be maximum at the boss of the lever. Okay, and the cross section at which the bending moment is maximum can be determined by constructing a bending moment diagram as shown in figure. Okay, here is at section XX. Now the bending moment is maximum at section XX. Okay, here at XX you can see the bending moment is maximum at the section XS, and it is given by here is the bending moment diagram. Okay, then okay, if you see the diagram, the inner diameter is D1, the outer diameter is 2D1, okay, and the cross-sectional view is of that lever is of rectangular one, okay, this hatching part is the cross-sectional view. And L1 is what? Okay, just see the diagram. L1 is what? It is the effort arm. L1 is the effort arm, okay, D1, 2D1. Now I want to know this dimension, then it is what? Total L1 minus D1. Okay, so this distance is L1 minus D1. Okay, so I think you got this diagram. Okay, the very simple one, inner diameter, outer diameter, effort arm, and the now the bending moment is taken at section XX. Okay, and which is because it is of a maximum. Now I will find out MB, that is bending moment is equal to what? That P into L1 minus D1. If I took the bending moment at section XX, so perpendicular what the forces acting and into perpendicular distance. So P into L1 minus D1. Okay, so I think you got this bending moment. Okay, P into L1 minus D1. Okay, then the cross section of the lever can be rectangular. Okay, here they have considered rectangular. It may be elliptical or it may be I section. Okay, so the cross section, so in examination or in problem statement they may give you any type of cross section. Here they may give you the elliptical, they may be give you the I section, or they may be give you the rectangular. So you should be ready, whatever may be type, you should solve the problem. Okay, so the cross section of the lever can be rectangular, elliptical, or I section. Here is the rectangular cross section. So B is the width and D is the, you know what, you can say the height. Okay, and the, if in case of a elliptical, A is the what you can say the major axis and minor axis, A and B. Okay, that section at X axis. Okay, then Y will be what, the outer fiber, the extreme fiber from the neutral axis. Okay, so for a rectangular cross section, I is equal to BD cube by 12, where Y is equal to D by 2. What is Y? Y is the outermost fiber from the neutral axis. So neutral axis पासून outermost fiber ची distance किती असणार आहे इथलं? D by 2, because overall is D. So here it will be what? D by 2. Okay. So for the rectangular cross section, because bending moment formula is equal to what? Sorry. What sigma b, bending stress, mb into y divided by r. Okay, mb you can find out from this formula, Y is d by 2, the cross sectional they will provide you, okay, and I is BD cube by 12 if it is over rectangular cross section, okay. So by using this formula you can find out the dimensions, okay. Then where B is the distance parallel, okay, B is what, the distance parallel to the neutral axis, okay, this is the neutral axis, and this B is what, the distance which is parallel to the neutral axis, and D is what, the distance perpendicular to the neutral axis, okay. So the dimension D is usually taken as a twice of a B, okay. So you can find out D is equal to twice of a B, 2 times of a B is nothing but the D, okay. Now for an elliptical cross section, okay, if it is of elliptical cross section, then how will you find out the bending moment? I is equal to pi into p into a cube by 64, where y is equal to a by 2, right? The outermost fiber from the neutral axis is nothing but y, okay? Y is equal to a by 2 because whole distance is a, so y is equal to a by 2, and I is equal to pi b a cube by 64. All of you please note down these all formulas because these formulas are required to solve the problems, okay? Once you will remember the design procedure very carefully, then you can remember the formulas very easily, okay. So this is the formulas, okay, where a and b is what, a major and minor axis. A is a major axis, b is a minor axis of the section, and usually the major axis is taken as a twice the minor axis, so a is equal to 2 times of a b, okay. So the major axis, if you want to find out the major axis, a is equal to always 2 times of a b, d is equal to 2 times of a b, like this. Okay, so using the above mentioned proportions, the dimensions of the cross sections of the levers can be determined. So by using these formulas, you can find out the dimensions. Okay. Already I have told you the bending stress is equal to mb into y divided by r. If it is a rectangular cross section, then I have already we have seen the formulas in a previous slide. And if it is of elliptical cross section, then bending moment into y into y. All these formulas are over here. Okay, you can use that bending moment is equal to P into L1 minus D. Okay, already we have seen in earlier slides. Okay, so by using this formula, you can find out the bending stress. Okay, and the dimensions for that particular lever. Okay, now the next, now the step 3. Okay, are you getting this? All of you, are you get this? How to find out the dimensions for the lever? Yes, please. Yes, Neha, yes, fine. What about others? Yes, Pallavi, Shoaib, yes. Remaining only 3 students are getting. What about others? Yes, Akanksha. Yes, yes, yes. Fine, fine. Okay. So this is about finding the dimensions. Yes, fine. Okay. So this is most important steps. These are the various steps design of a lever that you need to follow while solving the problems. Okay. And very simple one. Just you have to practice it. Once you practice it, remember it, then no one can stop you to solve the problem accurately. You can solve the problem accurately. You are getting the answers. Okay. So most important is to remembering the formulas and how it comes only. Once you will get how it comes, then it is very no, it is not difficult to solve the problem. Okay? Very fine. Now the next step, that is step 3, that is last one, that is design of a fulcrum pin. Now we have seen in step 1 the force analysis. Okay, then in step 2 design of a arms, okay, and the third step is to design of a fulcrum pin. That is the most important part, and the remaining one, that is the last step. Okay, now the fulcrum pin, okay, the fulcrum pin is subjected to the reaction R as shown in a figure. Okay, here you can see, here is the fulcrum pin, that hatching part is the bushing. Okay, so there is a relative motion between the pin and the bushing. Okay, and R is what, it is the reaction, the fulcrum pin reaction. Okay, it is subjected to the reaction R. Okay, so the inner diameter is d1, outer diameter is 2 times of a d1. Okay, so the forces which are acting on the boss of the lever, boss means this is outer part. Okay, that boss. Okay, earlier we have seen the boss of the lever and the pin are equal and opposite. Here is the pin and here is the boss. Okay, that boss is, you can see the bushing also. Okay, so they are opposite in a direction. The forces which are acting on the boss and the pin, here you can see the pin, okay. The here is you can see R and the effort which is acting on that pin, okay. Pin and the bushing or the boss, they are equal and opposite, okay. So the dimensions of the pin wise, diameter D1, okay, this is the diameter D1, and length L, okay, of the lever boss are determined by the bearing concentration, and then it is checked for the shear concentration, okay. So here is you need to find out the diameter and length, okay. Diameter, that is D1, okay, inner diameter, and length L1 in a lever, that are determined by bearing concentration, okay. And then it's checked for the shear concentration, okay. So there is a relative motion between the pin and the boss, okay. Pin boss, or you can consider as a bush, okay. So there is a relative motion between the pin and the boss of the lever, and the bearing pressure becomes the design criteria. Here is the bearing pressure will be the design criteria, okay. So according to the bearing pressure, we are going to find out the dimensions for the fulcrum pin. Now, for the fulcrum pin, the ratio of length to the diameter ratio, length is L1 and diameter ratio is D1, is usually taken from 1 to 2. Okay, just remember this thing, the ratio of length to diameter is usually taken from 1 to 2. Okay, so the outside diameter of the boss in the lever is taken as twice of the diameter of the pin. Here you can see it is taken as 2D1, the outer diameter of the boss, right? Inner diameter is a D1 and outer diameter is a 2 times of D1. So always outside diameter is taken as twice of the diameter of the pin. That is 2 times of a D1. Okay, a phosphor bronze bush. Okay, that bushing is of material phosphor bronze. Okay, usually 3 mm thickness. That phosphor bronze bushing, which is of a 3 mm thickness, and it is fitted inside the boss to reduce the friction. Right, to reduce the friction between the bushing and the pin, the phosphor bronze bushing is used to avoid the friction or to reduce the friction. So the permissible bearing pressure for a phosphor bronze bush is 5 to 10 Newton per mm square. Okay? So the permissible bearing pressure, okay, the value they have already given you. The permissible bearing pressure for the phosphor bronze bush is to 5 to 10 Newton per mm square. Okay, and a lubricant is also provided between the pin and the bush to reduce the friction. Sorry, lubrication is also provided to reduce the friction between the pin and the bush. Okay. Then for this pin, the compressive stress is given by. Okay. Now first we need to find out the compressive stress on that particular pin. How to find out, what is the formula to find out compressive stress? Now, already we have said sigma c is equal to force upon projected area. Okay. Compressive stress or the crushing stress. Okay. Compressive stress you can say. The force upon projected area. Okay. Now force is acting is what? P, that is effort. Okay, upon projected area is what? D into L. Okay, this area. Okay, D into L. Okay, D into that is D1 into L. Okay, here it is D1. Sorry. So the projected area is D1 into L. So sigma C is equal to P upon D into L. Okay, that will be the formula to find out the compressive stress of a pin. Okay, sigma C is equal to P upon D into L. Okay, now there is a basic difference between the bearing pressure and the crushing, okay, or compressive stress. There is a difference. Bearing pressure and crushing stress is not the same. Okay, so there is a basic difference between the bearing pressure and the crushing or compressive stress. Already I have told you, sigma is nothing but the crushing stress or the compressive stress you can say. Okay, that is P upon projected area. Now we have find out the crushing stress in case of a quarter. Okay, already we have find out. Okay, now the bearing pressure is considered when there is a relative motion between the two surfaces. Now, your question will become in arises why bearing pressure. So, bearing pressure you have to consider when there is a relative motion between the two surfaces, because here the surfaces of what? Pin and the bushing. There is a relative motion between the pin and the bushing. That's why we have considered here the what? The bearing pressure consideration. Okay. Then, on the other hand, the crushing stress is considered when there is a no relative motion between the surfaces under consideration. Because in case of a quarter joint, the quarter is totally tightly fitted in that what uh, spigot and the sorry, that what you can say, spigot and particular what that knuckle, sorry, I forgot that name. That spigot in spigot joint, it is totally fitted in that particular assembly, and there is a no relative motion right in between that spigot, sorry, in that quarter pin and that particular spigot end. Okay, so that's why we have considered there as a crushing stress. Okay, so in crushing stress is considered when there is a no relative motion between the surfaces. Okay, and if there is a relative motion between the two components, then you have to consider there as a bearing pressure. Okay. Yes. So the bearing pressure is always low, such as 10 Newton per mm square, while the magnitude of compression stress is high, such as 150 Newton per mm square. Okay. The value they have defined here for the bearing pressure, it is low one, and the compressive stress is a higher one, up to 150 Newton per mm square. Okay. Then a rotating shaft in a bearing, okay, a fulcrum pin of an oscillating lever, okay, or a power screw rotating inside the nut are the examples where bearing pressure is the design criteria. Here they have mentioned you the examples where the bearing pressure is considered in rotating shaft of the bearing, the rotating shaft in the bearing, a fulcrum pin of an oscillating lever, okay, already we have seen that fulcrum pin, okay, and a power screw which is rotating inside the nut. Okay, here the bearing pressure is considered for the design purpose. Okay, then the contact area between a quarter and the spigot end. Okay, the contact area between a quarter and spigot. Just I already told you the contact between quarter and the spigot end, the quarter and the socket end, okay, and the between knuckle pin and the eye or knuckle pin and the fork are the examples where crushing stress is the criteria of design. We have already find out, okay, already find out the crushing stresses for the quarter joint, for the knuckle pin, okay, because there is a no relative motion, right, because they are tightly fitted in case of a quarter joint and in case of a knuckle joint. Okay, so these are the various examples where crushing stress is the criteria of the design and the bearing pressure is the criteria of design when there is a relative motion between the two surfaces. Okay, so this is about today's uh, point of the discussion, that is design of a lever. So are you got this?